Welcome back to another episode of Ataria News Channel. Our first story comes from the wild world of cryptocurrency, where Ripple Labs just decided they are tired of being the weird kid at the financial playground. Ripple has applied for a national bank charter of the controller of the currency, following a similar move by stablecoin issuer Circle. Now, for those wondering what this means in plain English, imagine if your local coffee shop suddenly applied to become a full fledged restaurant. That's essentially what Ripple is doing, but with way more paperwork and regulators involved. Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse says they're also paying for a master account with the Federal Reserve, which could give them access to the US central banking system. This means they could hold their stablecoin reserves directly with the Fed, basically getting VIP access to the financial system's inner circle. The timing is interesting too. Remember how crypto companies used to complain about banks not wanting to work with them? Well, now they are saying, fine, we'll become the banks. It's like that friend who couldn't get invited to the party, so they decided to throw their own party, except this party has federal oversight and strict compliance requirements. If approved, this would make Ripple one of the first major cryptocurrencies to become a federally regulated bank. Whether this is crypto finally growing up or just putting on a very expensive suit, that remains to be seen. Moving on to something that sounds boring but is actually pretty exciting. Ubuntu is upgrading its RISC-V support. Now, before your eyes glaze over, let me explain why it matters. Ubuntu 25.10 is bumping up from the RVA 20 profile to RVA 23. Think of this like upgrading from a basic smartphone to a flagship model. It's the same concept, but with way more horsepower under the hood. The RVA 23 profile makes vector and hypervisor extensions mandatory. In simple terms, this means RISC-V processors will be able to handle AI workloads, cryptography, and complex math operations with much more efficiency. It's like giving your computer a shot of espresso mixed with a math PhD. Here's the catch though. Most RISC-V devices currently on the market don't support RVA 23 yet. So Ubuntu is basically saying, we're ready for the future. Hope you can keep up. It's a bold move that puts the RISC-V on par with ARM and x86 processors. For regular users, this won't change much immediately. But for developers and tech companies, this is a big deal because it means RISC-V is finally coming to compete with the big boys in high performance computing. Here's some genuinely exciting news from the world of neuroscience. Scientists in Sweden have confirmed that our brains keep making new neurons well into adulthood. This challenges the old belief that we are stuck with whatever brain cells we had by age 30. The study, published in Science Journal, found clear evidence of neural stem cells growing in the hippocampus. That's the part of your brain responsible for memory and learning. So basically, your brain is more like a garden that keeps growing new plants rather than a fixed sculpture. Dr. Marta Patellini from the Karolinska Institute puts it simply. We found clear evidence that the human brain keeps making new nerve cells well into adulthood. This isn't just academic curiosity, it could lead to new treatments for neurological disorders like Alzheimer's or depression. Now, there's still some debate in the scientific community about this. In 2018, two studies published a month apart came to completely opposite conclusions about adult neurogenesis. So, while this is promising news, scientists are still figuring out exactly how this process works and what it means for brain health. The takeaway, your brain isn't done developing. Even if you feel like you peaked in high school, there's always hope for growing new brain cells. Just maybe don't count on them to help you remember where you put your car keys. In things that sound scary but are actually being handled kind of news, Grafana Labs has fixed four critical security vulnerabilities in their image renderer plugin and synthetic monitoring agent. These vulnerabilities were actually in Chromium, the open source project behind Google Chrome, and were already fixed 2 weeks ago. But security researchers Alex Chapman proved they could still be exploited in Grafana's components, earning himself a big bounty in the process. Grafana is calling this a critical severity security release and strongly recommends the users to apply the fixes immediately. It's like finding out your house's security system had a flaw. But the good news is the security company already has the fix ready to install. For those using Grafana, update now. For everyone else, this is a good reminder that security is an ongoing process, not a one time setup. Even when vulnerabilities get fixed upstream, they can still cause problems downstream. if developers don't stay on top of updates. Now, here's a story that's making gamers everywhere do a double take. Sony is bringing Helldivers 2 to Xbox Series X and S on August 26th, making it the first PlayStation published non MLB game to land on Xbox. For those keeping score at home, this is like McDonald's deciding to sell burgers at Burger King. It just doesn't happen in the console world, that is until now. The game will cost $39.99 and comes with cross-play support between all platforms, which means PlayStation, PC, and Xbox players can all spread democracy together in the galaxy far, far away. Helldivers 2 is a chaotic co-op shooter where you're supposed to be saving the galaxy, but usually end up accidentally orbital striking your teammates. It's been a massive hit since launching in PlayStation and PC early last year, though it did have that dramatic moment when Sony briefly required PC players to create PlayStation accounts, which went over about as well as you would expect. The Xbox version won't have cross progression at launch, so you can't transfer your progress from PlayStation or PC. But honestly, in a game where friendly fire is a feature, starting fresh might be a blessing. This move signals Sony's shifting strategy toward putting more live service games on multiple platforms. Because why limit your chaos to just one console when you can spread it everywhere? Here's a story that falls under instant karma. A spyware app called CatWatchful accidentally exposed the personal data of over 62,000 users due to its own security flaws. CatWatchful markets itself as parental control software, but it's actually full blown spyware that can access cameras, microphones, photos, messages, and location data. The developers even brag that it's invisible and undetectable, which is definitely not what you want to hear from legitimate parental control software. Security researcher Eric Deigel discovered that despite all this stealth technology, CatWatchful was vulnerable to basic SQL injection attacks. This allowed him to access their Firebase database containing all that personal information they'd been collecting. The irony here is thick enough to cut with a knife. A company that specializes in secretly monitoring people couldn't keep their own data secure. It's like hiring a security guard who leaves the keys in the front door. This serves as a reminder that these monitoring apps often have serious security issues and that installing spyware on someone's device without their knowledge is both legally questionable and ethically problematic, not to mention apparently bad for your own cybersecurity. In AI news, Google has rolled out its VO3 video generation model to Gemini users in over 159 countries. This is Google's latest attempt to compete with other AI video generators like OpenAI's Sora. The catch is only available to paying subscribers of Google's AI Pro plan, and you are limited to creating just 3 videos per day. So, if you're planning to become the next Steven Spielberg using AI, you'll need to pace yourself. Video generation AI is still in its early days, but the technology is advancing rapidly. We're moving from wow, AI can make a blurry video of a cat to wow, AI can make a surprisingly decent video of a cat doing backflips. Whether this will revolutionize content creation or just flood the internet with more AI generated videos remains to be seen. But if you're a Google AI Pro subscriber, you now have 3 attempts per day to find out. Finally, some genuinely good news in cybersecurity. The Hunters International Ransomware Gang has announced they're shutting down operations and offering free decryption tools to their victims. In a statement on their dark website, the cybercriminals said they're closing shop in light of recent developments and want to help affected companies recover their data without paying ransoms. They've even removed all entries from the extortion portal. While they don't specify what these recent developments are, this follows increasing law enforcement pressure and declining profitability for ransomware operations. It's like when a shady business decides to go legitimate because being shady isn't profitable anymore. The gang is offering free decryption software and recovery guidance to all companies affected by their previous attacks. It's unusual for a ransomware group to make this gesture, though we should note that trusting cyber criminals, even reformed ones, requires a healthy dose of skepticism. The shutdown is part of a broader trend of ransomware groups facing increased scrutiny and reduce profits. Whether this represents a genuine change of heart or just good business sense is up for debate. But for the companies affected, free decryption tools are free decryption tools. And that's your tech news roundup for today. We've got crypto companies becoming banks, brains making new neurons, Sony breaking console exclusivity rules, and even some reformed cyber criminals trying to make amends. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and we'll see you next time on Italian News Channel.